Cuddly Ken's meeting the publisher in front of a bright white background, while nearby it's the fall of just the spiders from Mars. This is the third episode of Theory of Obscurity. Hello, this is the Theory of Obscurity, and I am Kridoff.
And I am Apple Mask.
And we have another two things to discuss, another two obscure bits of media that we've sent each other. Matthew sent me an album, and I have sent Matthew two books, actually, but we'll do the album first. So the album is Spiders from Mars without David Bowie. It's from, let me just check this little thing here.
1976, I believe.
Yes, 1976.
Well, Bowie was in LA in a big pile of cocaine.
Yes, and basically, I think they initially disbanded and then they reformed without Ronson. That's what it gives the impression of, yeah. But
yeah, just the rhythm section, basically.
Yeah.
Woody Woodmansey and God damn it, I've forgotten his name. Drummer Dan.
Trevor Boulder on bass guitar, Woodmansey on drums. Mick Woodmansey. Yeah. Okay. So they began. It says here in Wikipedia, of course, the font of all knowledge, that the group had its origins in Bowie's earlier backing outfit, The Hype, which featured Ronson and Woodmansey and had Tony Visconti on bass. And then, everything else that happened. There was also a brief bit with Rick Wakeman appeared for a bit. And yeah, so obviously by this point, he's David Bowie's gone over to LA and he's doing the Young Americans thing, the Plastic Soul, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the band themselves are, as we've just said, it's the rhythm section. They were joined by three other people, Mike Garson, Dave Black, and Pete MacDonald. And yeah, the self-titled album, released in 1976, was their only album before the group disbanded properly.
Yeah. Garson, obviously the pianist from Aladdin Sane. Worked with Bowie on and off for a few times, actually.
Yeah.
And the other two were the singer and lead guitarist for a band called Goldie, which sounds a bit like Smokey, and as far as I know, they sounded a bit like Smokey, and that's pretty much all you need to know about them. They were that kind of a 70s band.
Yes. So, okay, so I gave this a couple of listens a few listens all the way through. One thing that is that occurs to me is that I do keep forgetting how these songs go. I've written in my notes. I'm going to be mainly working off my notes for the descriptions because I generally, it's like a version of fake sort of vaguely Bowie-esque or just sort of generally glam rocky songs that could have been made at a later date to soundtrack a drama about something in the 70s without sounding too overtly like any one artist.
It's like if Todd Haynes couldn't afford real musicians for the Velvet Goldmine soundtrack.
Exactly, yeah. It's just like that. And there's when it comes to things like this, there's always this weird kind of melancholy about it. Like these people were once, part of something really huge, and now they've sort of really gone down.
They're trying desperately to cling on to it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not just Bowie has left, but it's Ronson's gone as well. So it's...
Yeah.
So it's, the odds are kind of stacked against them, and, so it turned out to prove, because, of course, as I said earlier, this was their only album. But
yeah, no bugger bought it.
Yeah, yeah. But, yeah, so I'm going to go roughly through my impressions of each track. I wrote it down as it played, and I revised it a bit, because I gave it another re-listened earlier today. So track one starts off like a typical sort of Bowie Ronson rocker, sort of. It reminds me of, there's a lot of lifts, just little micro lifts from all sorts of previous things all throughout the album. And
yeah,
I forget which one this is reminding me of, this first one.
It's it's a standard dun 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 sort of 70s rock song.
Yeah, and it's
isn't it, that one?
Yeah. I like the the slightly sort of stop-starty sort of bits in the chorus, like that. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
I just like that. It's a nice little touch. And the vocals are interesting because depending on the context of the song by what's being played, for some reason I think of either two people, and it's like Elton John or Stevie Wonder. For some reason, in track 2 actually, the way the instrumentation is, I keep thinking of Stevie Wonder more on that track, and it sort of goes between there. The lyrics generally are just sort of standard sort of rock band cliches. You're not exactly getting any kind of William Burroughs kind of cut ups here or anything.
No.
What seems to be the best tune, I would say definitely, would be track 3, which is White Man, Black Man.
That was the single.
Yes, it was the single. And
it's not a promising title, is it?
No, I mean, I was a bit nervous listening to it. Lyrically, it's one of those things I couldn't actually find the proper lyrics written down anywhere on any of those usual sites. But from what I can make out, it seems to be well-intentioned, but a bit sort of on the nose, obvious, not a bit clunky in the way that it tended to be. Their intentions were good, but it's just sort of there, But musically,
it could have been an awful lot worse.
Yes, like that infamous one that's used in that episode of I'm Alan Partridge, the first series. That gets and there's loads of people like about like my mum and dad's age who say, well, it's a really anti-racist song. It's sort of, let's say, but
but
yeah. But that is the best tune probably on the whole album. And I wrote down, like the synth on this buried in the mix a bit. And there are some interesting little bits of instrumentation which I like, which come later on. Track 4, that's much more sort of an attempt at hard rock, much more sort of adrenalized. And at this point, there's some interesting thing that goes on with the track list, because there were 2 versions of this record. In the UK and the US.
The B-side was on the US version, wasn't it?
Yeah, I sort of got a bit confused by the variations of it, but
I think the YouTube link that I gave you was to the regular UK version.
Yes, I think this is because I downloaded the audio of those videos from then. I had to relabel them all. And I listened to that one mainly because I did a few re-listens, of course. And I got so as I go through my notes, there's a lot of confusion over what track is which precisely. But I'll get through it. But there's I wrote down here, dueling guitars and stereo, harmony end of chorus is a bit bland though. It says that Summer of Gold bit sounds pretty great, like a slightly ragged ELO, and I can't quite remember what that, because as I said before,
I think I know what you mean.
I can't quite grab hold of all the songs on this because they are a bit too generic for the most part. But I do remember liking that bit, and so the next track, which is either track 5 or track 6 or something.
I think we're up to track 5.
Yeah, track 5 most likely. So it says, I wrote down that it sounds like the very beginning of a US cop show theme produced by Quinn Martin. It just has that, from what I recall, it had that feel to it.
Specific.
Yeah. And I mistook what I thought was the chorus. It was actually the bridge, and I didn't like the actual chorus after that. There's a bit here where they're saying, got to make it really funky, like they're trying to one-up young Americans or something. I don't know if that was the intention.
It's never a good idea for a white band to use the word funk.
Yes, there's that as well. And, there's that I don't want to rock and roll chorus, which sort of goes on a bit long. There's sort of a kind of a...
I don't want to do limbo, I don't want to rock and roll.
Oh, that was what they were singing. Okay, I didn't hear... I just heard like sort of... don't want to rock and roll. I just couldn't focus on that bit of the lyric at all. I do write down here also that there's a key change towards the end, what's known as a truck driver's key change, which a lot of people hate, but actually quite like the truck driver's key change. I just like it.
It has its place as a tool.
Yeah, because so many people are like really against it, saying they should have written another bit at the end that properly finishes it. But it does have its place, as you say. The next track is like a ballad, and it's I've written down here, where the previous song sounded like a cop show, this one's beginning sounds a bit like an old 70s anime theme warming up, or the start of a corporate Japanese laserdisc presentation. I don't know how much you would agree with that.
I have no context for that whatsoever.
Okay. It sort of sounds, because there are like anime, well, sort of late 70s to mid 80s anime that sort of had that kind of very orchestral sort of feel, and sort of sometimes they have synthy, and it's sort of like jazzy and all sorts of things at the same time. It just sort of,
Right.
I could just picture like something that decades later would have that soundtrack and would be lifted off of like a VHS or a Laserdisc and used in someone's YouTube video. I just like that. The singer reminded me at this point, unlike Stevie Wonder or Elton John, of Jamiroquai, actually, at this point. And I can't remember why, as I keep saying, I can't quite, but apparently it did. I don't know what you...
I was a Jamiroquai fan as a teenager when Jason Kay was still putting in effort.
Yes, and it's weird because I don't know a whole lot about him, but like I just remember that he came up with this very sort of angry sort of thing where he's like dancing in, like, I think the Californian desert.
Yeah.
They shot the video there, and he's doing all that business, must say Planet Earth, and then he just sort of went mad for cars or something.
Yeah, he got like a billion cars, and as soon as he started making money, he stopped really putting any effort into. I still have the album Travelling Without Moving, and I can pretty much pinpoint the moment on that record where he stops caring.
Where is it?
I think it's somewhere between the two didgeridoo instrumentals, along about the middle of the album.
Yeah. But I also remember that wonderful piss take of him in the Fast Show, where it was like technically on Jazz Club. It was one of the Jazz Club sketches with Simon Day dressed as him with the hat and everything, and he says, "My mother was the wind," and he says, "Oh, where are you? Oh, she missed me again," and all this business. I love that. As I say here, nice guitar stroke synth, middle eight, vaguely Life on Mars or something, and then Melotron Choir. I don't know how much you know about the Melotron Choir setting.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah,
I listened to King Crimson.
Yeah, it's and it works really well on the final chorus. They put it to nice use there, and the piano bit is a lift from "Oh You Pretty Things," I think.
Yes, it is very similar.
Yeah, and it fades. I think everything fades out slightly ahead of the piano, very vaguely like Life on Mars, like the phone ringing, and it's like something that's close enough to Bowie to not be legally actionable. And on track 8, I think I'm on. I don't know if I'm track 7 or track 8 now, but the one after the ballad on the UK listing. I wrote down, haven't I heard the song before? And then the bridge was different. I just keep happening. So this is a cheery rock number about going to America or touring in America. Here I write down, in quotes, "I'm getting it on, woo, a lyric." And that's what I... And
it's so generic, it's practically default.
Yeah, default 70s, really. Yeah, and this was the point on my first listen through, I think, that I started to notice all the little vague lifts, because everything was just so generic at that point. It took me a while to sort of get beyond that and listen to it. I remember a bit more than some of the others, and I like the guitar tone in the solo, actually. It's that kind of really sort of rough, but not hugely rough. It's sort of hard to describe, but that sort of the buzzy sort of almost. Track 9 is the guitar. It starts with some acoustic guitar, again right after Space Oddity, with a different singer on top, of course.
Yeah.
Then there's what I'm not sure when the strings section come in. I don't know whether it's an actual string section or an early string synth, which is one of those early things that they had just sort of started.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it's probably a Melotron.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell.
I doubt they could afford actual. Actually, I'm looking at the credits now and I don't see string arrangements or anything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's probably Garson on a Mellotron.
Yeah, most likely. And then it changes to sort of a bit more of an original song than just merely copying Space Oddity. There's a nice instrumental bit which is either a different synth or a guitar with loads of reverb and played out without what's known as the dry signal. Which if anybody listening doesn't know, that's the signal that is unaffected. It usually gets mixed in with the what's known as the wet signal, which is the stuff with pure effect on it, and you can alter the levels and various bits of equipment sometimes. And yeah, again, this is quite. I can tell that I'm trying to get through this first because it is a bit. Yeah, as we were saying, this is a default section 70s stuff. Yeah. And I'm trying my best to make it interesting, but I'm kind of just focusing on all the technical details I can notice and everything. One thing I can add about this through is that it's weirdly reminiscent of Suede for a bit, with the reverb added to absolutely everything at the end. It's like Dogman Star, a bit like We Are the Pigs or something, especially with the final sustained chord and that last little guitar wail. It's really like that track in a weird way, if I'm remembering that track right. Right now, God, it's a bit of a slug. When you're listening to it, it's okay. You say, oh yeah, this is all right, and then when you try to talk about it, it's just sort of there.
Because there's so little to talk about, isn't there?
Yeah, even through in and of itself, it's interesting because it's there's something kind of tragic about it, and there's sort of these people, as I stated before, but it's just it is a slog when you're trying to talk about it. But yeah, so track 9, starts off like another ballad, but then it turns into another let's make it funky kind of effort. This sounds like a very sort of off sort of Stevie Wonder outtake where the BBC Top of the Pops Orchestra are playing and they're doing a session for CFAX, it really does sound like the piano solo in the middle 8. It's like a piano solo from a CFAX reel, the music reel that they play. I liked it better on re-listening for some reason because I just pretended it was like something recorded from CFAX. But
I think they were trying to go for something big and just something major for a finale to the album.
Yeah, they definitely were, but
and ended up with pages from CFAX.
Yeah, but that's in the UK listing. That's not the final track because there's one more thing. If I've got this right, it's sort of more of a standard, another rock standard thing. It's
this was the B-side to the single.
Ah, right, okay, so this is it then. Yeah,
pretty much the only other song that they ever had.
Right, yeah, and I like this one, and again, it's got a cop show feel to it, this time rather than a Quinn Martin production, it's like a kind of transatlantic Sweeney, and it's like and another thing about it is that it's like a version of a popular theme tune that that you find on old greatest TV themes ever CD compilation. But it's got vocals on it, which were originally recorded for a potential single release or something, and it sounds wrong as a result. If you get what I mean. Yeah,
funny.
And there's so from this point on, so it's B-side breaks down into kind of it breaks down into a sine wave synth bit, and then they reused the Melotron from that track on the album. Then they go back into the main bit of the theme. It repeats the structure. Second half of the song repeats the structure through not the lyrics, I think. There's one final quick little rock out bit, and then it just stops, and that is it.
Yeah. We'll go home.
I feel like I've just sort of hung around, just like an office for a bit, and enjoyed a bit of the absolute 70s, and they've not really played anything I've not particularly enjoyed, but like it's just good enough, and then I've gone home. So yeah, that is Spiders from Mars, their only solo band album, or whatever you could call it. Yeah, and that's
the only non-Bowie album.
Yeah, and yeah, there's not really a lot to say. It's more interesting talking about the stuff around it and the circumstances, because I mean, when I look at the Spiders from Mars Wikipedia, it's just pretty much talking about, you know, the stuff that happened and reforming it and splitting, and then it ends with a bit of where the name came from, a certain kind of UFO sighting. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I don't know.
It's more interesting to listen to than to talk about, and it's not particularly interesting to listen to.
Actually, yeah, that is more accurate, I think. Yeah, I mean,
although it does have its moments, I was expecting it to be a lot worse when I found it.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the Posey and Hunter Mott the Hoople, which this kind of reminds me of, but they were much worse.
Because in 76, this is like the real sort of like dead zone in like 70s music, really, just as punk is sort of just starting to happen and other things are just starting to happen. It's like that. Yeah. Because this is
between
when
punk and the new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah.
They really.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's sort of a weird one. I'm not sure if I can recommend it, but at the same time, it's not a complete waste of time, really. It's just sort of like I said at the beginning. It's like something you could do to put in a drama about the 70s if you can afford the proper songs, and that's basically it. Really. Yeah. So I think now we'll move on to what I sent to you, and I feel this is going to be a bit more interesting to talk about. I have a feeling it will have been as much of a slog as this was for you.
I feel like I should apologise.
But yeah,
you something impossible to talk about.
I sent you 2 annuals of Kenny Everett's video show for 1980 and 81, I believe it was, which I downloaded from somewhere. They're in the CBR format, which is like the comic book reader format. Basically just forms of zip files and
just zip files that the program turns into a slideshow for you.
Yeah.
I've read countless comic books in CBR and CBZ format, so I've there's loads of really incredibly obscure things. I like that. There's this one video. There's this one comic I downloaded, which is a reprint of this utterly obscure thing from like middle of World War II, called something like Moon Potatoes or something. It has like these weird bobbly things on the moon, because this was back when, you know, people still speculated whether there'd be life on the moon because it was that early. It's all bobbling about, and then you turn the page and then there's Hitler as a naughty boy who gets spanked by a teacher or something, and you know, stuff like that. I think that might be another hallucination.
That might be it. Yeah, but can you remember what your first experience of anything by Kenny Everett was?
It was when he died. Actually, I hadn't really heard of him until he died, and I was 11, going on 12, and that may be the perfect age, really, for the subsequent wave of repeats and retrospectives and Kenny Everett related nostalgia that came right after his death.
Yeah, they repeated it a couple of years later. It started repeating the video show on Granada Plus, I think.
I wouldn't know. I didn't have Granada Plus until about 1999. They were repeating the television show on the BBC when they had spare half hours.
Right, okay.
Quite a while after he died.
Yeah, I missed that, but I do know that at roughly the same time they were repeating it also, the BBC shows on Paramount Comedy Channel.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah, and a lot of the rips of the television show, the BBC show, as it was known, actually come from broadcasts from the Paramount Comedy Channel, because you see the dog in the corner, or the bug, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the BBC ones were compilations.
Ah, right.
So, and I think the Paramount ones were
full episodes.
The actual, real, hardcore,
yeah,
actual thing.
There were some edits made to them after Diana died, I think, in post-97. I remember reading that they cut out a couple of sketches, because of the whole weirdness that surrounded that. And how that kind of still exists now, even to this day, when the release of Fist of Fun Series 2 on DVD was messed up. Well, not just because of this, but the BBC had demanded that Leon Herring cut the references to Diana in like 2 sketches. Then there was also the business with the kid who was scared by Peter Pan. I can't remember the name of the person. Mitch Michener, that's it. Mitch Michener. Yes, that was it. Yeah,
always Michener.
Yeah, so it was all that business. But yeah, I was being a bit older than you. Of course, I remember him being a thing as a regular person on TV. I remember seeing some of the later BBC shows. I also remember him being on part of a quiz show called Brain Drain with Cleo.
It rings a bell, actually.
Yeah, Cleo. I can never pronounce her name.
Rokos, I think.
Rokos, yes, probably it. And yeah, I actually have well, at least I used to have a VHS recording of one of the shows from his very last series, and I think it was 87 or 88. And they had this big long sort of thing where he using the early CG technology, basically he goes in front of like a replica of the outside of the television center and spray paints like a neon sign, and is saying that Kenny he rips off BBC and Centre and spray paints the Kenny Everett and show. But these annuals are obviously an attempt to bring that, and it's odd to begin with because obviously they are being aimed at a more child sort of audience who did watch his stuff. Obviously, well, I suppose, yes. It's kind of weird because it's...
But yeah, the kids did watch the video show.
Yeah, they did watch it, even though it wasn't entirely suitable. And it's one of those things that just happened in the 70s and 80s, of course. It's just something that's been covered in things like that brilliant Scarred for Life book, which I think I hope the second volume will hopefully be coming out soon if it hasn't already, which deals with the 80s.
Yeah.
And so it I mean, it's probably the only kind of primarily aimed at children's annual that effectively has kind of a pin-up centerfold type thing in the middle.
I think both of them have pin-ups of Hot Gossip.
Hot Gossip,
the 1981 has 2.
Okay, I didn't notice. I forgot there was a second one for some reason. But there's I mean, obviously they're not. It's not like the Sun was doing or anything like that. But it's still
it's page 3. But it's still.
It is still odd. Yes.
Not something you'd necessarily. Although the Doctor Who annual in 1985 had several full-page pin-ups of Colin Baker. You might be hoping I was going to say Nicola Bryant, but no, Colin Baker. I think that was just because they couldn't think of anything else to put there.
Yeah, and also wasn't there? I've read on I think Tim Worthington's blog apparently that there was a fanzine, a Doctor Who fanzine from the late 80s or early 90s that just had somebody that for their cover they had somebody draw a picture of Nicola Bryant, sort of using a photo as a guideline of Nicola Bryant in a bikini, apparently. I think I actually saw it on... Somebody uploaded it to archive.org.
I wouldn't be at all surprised.
Just a really terrible biro pen drawing of it. It's just... it's absolutely embarrassing.
Obviously they didn't have a VCR and hadn't recorded Planet of Fire.
No. But and one thing I will say about this, both annuals, is that they do tend to get very text heavy. Yeah,
a lot of text pieces and only, one comic strip really split in 2. in both cases. Not that there's an awful lot of continuity.
There's stuff to do with Captain Kremen, which is his main radio serial.
Captain Kremen is the main draw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sid Snot gets a few pages in both of them, and there's some stuff that's just plain random. Streams of vaguely related gags, where one joke leads to another until the page runs out and they stop. There's one about Kenny's supposed ancestors, and there's a bit that's supposed to be a news page. There's a taxonomy of wounds, hosted by Captain Kremen in the 1981 one, which is a thing.
Oh yes, I remember there was something about that which was a bit unpleasant.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, there's obviously as well as all the the hot gossipy kind of stuff. There are stereotypes aplenty, of course.
Yeah, there's some dodgy material, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a set of Rockstar Diaries, which is actually quite interesting for its insight into where the music scene was at in 1979. And it's got piss takes of a typical punk who turns out to be a Cambridge professor, and an aging rocker heading for irrelevance. But then there's also the reggae musician whose bit is written in Cod Patois with lots of mockery of Rastafarianism. It's not overtly racist or anything, it's just inescapably dodgy.
Yeah.
And the accompanying picture doesn't help.
Yeah. That was also, of course, another fortunate thing is that's kind of mirroring, in a way, something from the video show at the time called Disco Version. Have you seen that bit?
I'm aware of it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it on. I downloaded a bunch of original episodes of the video show ages ago, and that cropped up. The joke being, of course, that he sort of gains sort of the stuff on his skin, and they put like a medallion on him, and he's the disco version for reasons you can ascertain.
I don't think they tend to include that bit in repeats anymore.
No, they don't. No, it's only I've only seen it in the original versions that were. Yeah, one thing about the video cassette actually, which is around about the time of the last annual. Is that I like the I don't know if I can't remember if the other series did this. They may have done, but I like the sort of proto Clive James on television stuff they did, where they showed just a random advert from abroad, and there's in one of these original episodes of video cassette I've got somewhere. There's like the you can hear the crew sort of like generally appreciating actually this Japanese advert for, I think it's cassettes, and it's like the cassettes are being used as dominoes, and you get all this incredibly impressive sort of thing, and like a Rube Goldberg or Heath Robinson kind of thing. Things like knock over things, and at the end they applaud, and it was just a nice thing. I think it was quite nice, but I forget what else is in the annuals at this point.
Comics, tech stories. There's even a Dice Encounters game.
Yes,
because it's an annual, and that's what you do.
Of course, yes.
It's your standard television tie-in annual in many ways. Obviously, my main jam in this particular genre is the Doctor Who annuals, which were put out by World Distributors between 1964 and 1985, and it was a highly competitive market at this point. World Distributors got most of the really plum licenses, like Doctor Who and Star Trek and the Jerry Anderson stable. The video show annual is a Stafford Pemberton joint. So it shares a stable with the likes of Magnum P.I. and Rainbow and Return of the Saint. It's Division 2 in a way. And Star Maidens.
Oh, really?
For some reason. That got an annual, even though nobody liked it at the time either.
Because one thing about Star Maidens that I read recently actually is that the woman who does Philomena Kunk in the Charlie Brooker shows.
Diane Morgan.
Yeah,
yes.
Diane Morgan, that's her name. She's like obsessed with this one character in Star Maidens, and she was interviewed by this sci-fi magazine that was published recently, like last year, about it. And she also talked about the show in general. And apparently she was planning to do some sort of cosplay or maybe even some sort of full act around this character, which is this odd sort of alien doctor who's like alien humanoid doctor who doesn't have ears. They've got grey skin and a big sort of head and sort of blue, just pure blue eyes. That's without a pupil or iris or anything. and she wanted to play it as just this sort of an alien doctor who just, despite being from another universe or another galaxy or whatever, talks with a Bolton accent. And she keeps like trying to operate on people to heal them, but keeps killing them, but like nobody minds or something. I really like the idea of it, but I don't know what's happened to it. She said she was collecting all like lots of bits to do for the costume and props you could use. But yeah, I'm hoping she does something like that in Edinburgh or wherever.
Yeah, look forward to that. One thing I like to know about these things, because I'm anal, is I like to know who did the writing and who did the art, but nobody's credited in these annuals. Nobody's ever credited for these annuals. But I can make a guess that Kenny himself was involved to some extent, because they credit the Everett marketing company. So he must have at least signed off on it. I think he might very well have dashed off a few bits. And I'm pretty sure that the art, or at least some of the art, is by Roger Wade Walker. It's by Roger Wade Walker, the canonical artist for Captain Kremen, former neighbour of Kenny's.
Because both annuals actually have a Captain Kremen cover, roughly. There's like the first one, got a big sort of grinning Kenny head sort of in the corner with like I think it's the TVs of Kremen, and then in the next one they're both sort of all the characters, the three main characters from Kremen, are all sort of standing away looking at the TVs or something, and there's
but they're back to the I think there might be a reason for that particular composition, and it might have something to do with how much Carla was in the first book, because she's in it quite a lot.
Yes.
And that means her nipples are in it quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because that is two outstanding points.
I did notice that.
She, I think they pushed her luck. I think they pushed their luck with the 1981, because she's not in the 81 one half as much. There's one pin-up, and then apart from that, it's mostly headshots and silhouettes and things. And which is a shame, because she's not just eye candy; she is also a comic foil.
Yes, yeah.
And leaving her out means Dr. Gitfinger has to do double duty in her absence.
Yeah, I mean, Carla is actually, as you say, good comic foil. And in the video cassette, I forget who played her, but there was an actual actress who played her, and it also Kenny himself played it.
Yeah, it went live action, didn't it?
Yeah, it went live action, and I like those ones as well.
Still on the subject of Carla, she's also coloured wrong for a lot of the 1980 book. Her costume's yellow and her skin is white. She's coloured as a white person, which is obviously wrong.
Yeah.
I think they might have had the same penciler for the comic strips in both books, but they had a different inker for the first one, and it didn't work quite so well. It didn't quite seem to understand.
It's when you think about it, it's odd, the whole process of penciling and inking. Well, I suppose back then obviously it made sense to like mechanize it, but like I'm sort of going off topic a bit here, but nowadays you can just sort of scan your own pencil work and you sort of automatically ink it just by fiddling about with the brightness and contrast, and then if you want you can like vectorize what you get out of that. A lot of people still are sort of in that mode of inking. And there was this one cartoonist, I forget what her name was, but she said, she was talking to animator, and she said, don't you like still ink things like the ink and paint in the old days? And it was like, he was actually quite bewildered, because of course, well, this was around about like the late 90s or so there was, it was more sort of, 2D was still the main thing just about. Yeah. But obviously by that, I mean, since the 60s, they'd had a thing called Xeroxography, which is like you scan in the pencil artwork and you get the inked thing without the paint, just as on actual cell sheets ready to be painted in. And I think that was first done on 101 Dalmatians, like the original film of that from the 60s, whenever it was. And one thing I remember about Xeroxography is that there was only ever one person ever credited for that in all Hanna-Barbera, I think, cartoons, and it was Starworth. And I'm wondering if that was some sort of in-joke, or it was actually the name of a particular kind of machine. I'm wondering. I have to ask my dad about that because he worked for Xerox, of course.
Wouldn't be a surprise from Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
To literally only use the one thing once.
Yeah, well, there was memories of just things like people running and like just the same type of lampshade and chair endlessly cycling past. Yeah. So, would you recommend anybody reading these annuals today? Do you think?
I wouldn't put anybody off. I mean, obviously they're going to be hard to get hold of.
Yes,
but yeah, if you're a Kenny Everett fan, then yeah, definite easy recommendation.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, for newcomers, it's probably... Well, Kenny Everett, of course, is going to be a bit of a hard sell to younger newcomers, obviously.
It's mostly us old people who are going to be.
Yeah. But
I wouldn't recommend it as anyone's first impression.
No, even if you are like the age we are. So the thing about this is that, there's, for me, there's a lot of very text-heavy things, which might be, like I say, can be a bit of a slog, but it is generally worth it.
There aren't any articles about rocket science or the city of the future like you would have got in the Doctor Who annuals. They're all it is all Kenny.
Yeah, it's all on point. It's all on
There's
brand.
nothing serious about it whatsoever.
No.
And a lot of the text pieces are just excuses for Roger Wade Walker and whoever else to draw ridiculous aliens. Like there's a green lump with the face of a gorilla and the hair of Donald Trump.
Yes.
And there's another one that looks like a psychotic take on the brave little toaster. Until you look closer and realise it's actually an infinite regression of toasters. It also includes the word git. Both books include the word git at least once.
Yes.
So,
which counted as a swear word back then.
It did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it doesn't now because it's in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it too, obviously. But obviously, if you are basically our age, roughly, which is like, you know, late 30s to 40s, and you've never really, if you know of,
it does require context.
Yeah, you know, if you know of Kenny Everett but you've never really properly taken the plunge, obviously, I would recommend you start with maybe the edited like compilations of things like the television show, the video show. And which the compilations of the video show were released as DVDs. I know that. There was a release of his old 83 sort of horror comedy thing with Vincent Price called Bloodbath at the House of Death, which also had Pamela Stevenson in. I've got the DVD of that, but I wouldn't recommend people start with that either, because that's a bit that's very sort of hardcore fan kind of thing.
Which is a way of saying it's not actually very good.
Yeah, yes, but yeah. It is interesting just seeing you know, Kenny together with Vincent Price and Pamela Stevenson, a bunch of other people you'll recognise. You know,
if you're not familiar with him, he is worth seeking out. I think his combination of technical sophistication, formal experimentation, and basic stupidity struck a chord with me when I was 12.
Yeah, it did for me.
I think there's something inherently splendid about going to so much trouble to be completely stupid in as brilliant a way as possible.
Yeah.
But I think I doubt there's anything more noble.
Yes, yeah. It's what I try to do quite often. Yeah. So if you are our age and you would like to investigate, then by means all you can do. I think the annuals may be available somewhere in archive.org, actually, in the one of their community texts thing. I think that's where I might have got it from, but I'm not sure. There is a lot of
it's quite possible. There's a lot of random stuff on that website.
Yeah. In general, of course, not just comics.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah.
So that kind of winds it up for it. This episode, I think, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, we kept you under 2 hours this time.
Yes, and that'll make editing easier for me. Yeah. So, yeah, that's it from now. We will be back, I think, hopefully in 2 weeks' time, unless I have another vibrating ghost screaming at me from within my own brain, you know. And and
obviously I might have one of those as well.
Yes, that might happen as well. We both might have, you know. But yeah, for now, I am Kridoff.
And I am Apple Musk. I'm still not very used to saying that.
Yeah, that is it for the 3rd episode, and hopefully see you again in 2 weeks. So that is it. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Here is a strange noise.
Guys have got it together, so make it with...
I'm going to pieces. More coffee.
Fuck it. Never mind. What about the huge savings on quilts? I mean, buggeroony. And the polycotton sheets. Fuck me. Brentford sale now on, cunts. Be there.